only difference is, right, this is where the ventral aorta is just one thing before it goes to both sides. This is where the dorsal aortae is like coming together and then forming one single dorsal aorta. There are other illustrations that you can find different places where they always just show one ventral aorta, right? I don't really like that one as much. It doesn't make it as clear as having two ventral aortae. Okay, so with two ventral aorta, it's a lot more clear. So this is the beginning, but we still need one more thing. And that one more thing, I'm just going to draw kind of on the outside, right? So I'm just going to draw it coming down like this. And this is not specific. This isn't, this is the accurate path. This is just so that you know that this thing is coming down through here. So what is this? Vagus nerve. And then what's going to happen with the vagus? What is that?
The recurrent nerves will hook around the sixth aortic arch.
Okay, so you get, what? Yes, so you get a branch coming off, and what I want you to notice is it hooks around, right, so across over the outside, okay? So it goes over the outside of this arch, and then it hooks around the arch like this, and now it's on the inside, so now it's inside. And it goes onto the gut tube like that. So same thing right here, kind of hooks around like this, and it goes onto the gut tube like that, right? So with those ones, those are recurrent laryngeals.
And all that is still in the area?
Yes, this is while the migration of the heart is happening and it's running past the pharynx like this, okay? So the innervation, it makes its innervation, okay, while these arches are still developing, and because that happens, it's able to, catch the recurrent laryngeal, okay? So this is tricky because these don't all exist at the same time. It's not like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all happen, and they're all there at the same time. What really happens is you start some development, and then you continue development, and by the time this one is forming, this one's actually already starting to go away. It's like, it's an ongoing process. But we're not concerned with that. We're just basically saying, here's the idea is you have these 6 arches, and they're going to appear and disappear, right? Now, so this is the beginning, right? Right, so there's the beginning. And what we're now going to do is we're going to begin to lose some of our structures. So this is in the very, very beginning. This is the embryo. So if you want, you can think of this as like the early embryo version. Because there's going to be a later embryonic version
that's what I was
where it's transitioning.
Because it says like in the embryo, the right side does not hook around the sixth aortic arch. Because that's when it loses it. The connection.
That's actually in the fetus and the adult. In the embryo, it's still doing that. In the later embryo, it's transitioning.
Okay.
So that's when it's starting to lose that stuff. Yeah?
Yeah.
So this, right, is the beginning. Now we're going to do the transitional thing. The only reason why I put this transitional one in there is so that you understand how it got from the embryo version to the fetus version, right? But the idea is it's going to start losing, so we're going to do this exact same thing, but we're not going to draw in the parts that got lost during the transition, during the development from embryo to a fetus, okay? So this is called the sixth aortic arch. This is the left sixth aortic arch. This is the right sixth aortic arch. But during development, we're going to start losing those things as you change from an embryo to a fetus. So this is the late embryonic version. It's going to look like this. And I'm not going to draw the gut in anymore because it's just like cluttered, right?
For the dorsal and ventral aortae, for the adult, all we need to know is the external carotid and internal. Is that the only significance of it?
the dorsal? Yes, yeah. Well, I'll show you something where you have to understand something about dorsal too, right? But basically, yes. It's most important for you guys to know that for the carotids, right? Okay, so here we've got the numbering for the arches. And this is important because, and we're going to have this. And so the part of the gut that I'm most concerned with is coming off of the gut tube, you end up having lungs developing. So you're going to have lungs, which are developing. And then this sixth arch on the left side, still there, all there. And then it sends down like that. That's a pulmonary artery. On the right side, you lose the distal portion. So it comes out, and then it goes like this, but you lose the distal portion. So this is the transitional kind of like, thing. So this is the later embryo, oops, I forgot this. So this is the later embryonic version, okay? And with this later embryonic version, what's happening is you lost some of the arches. Second one's gone, fifth one's gone, totally gone. And you've lost parts of other things. So you lost the distal part of the right sixth aortic arch. You've lost the dorsal aorta in between the third and the fourth arches. And you've lost the portion of the first arch right there. So this is the transitional one. Honestly, at this point, we're really starting to move away from embryo, and it's really becoming more like the fetus. But it never actually looks like this. This is just so that you can make the jump from this one to the fetal one. This is not for real. This never actually looks like this. It's just a transition for the concept. And so we're gonna start making the changes in the names from here as we move towards the fetal version, right? So when we start changing things, oh, did I forget? Okay, so there's no change. It still comes across like this, and then goes towards the gut tube, right? And it's not going to the lungs, it's going to the larynx. This one though, looks around, and there's nothing for it to hook on anymore. Okay? And is there a fifth arch still here?
No.
So it can't hook on that anymore, so what does it hook onto?
The fourth.
What's left of the fourth arch right here, the whole thing, which will eventually, right, when we follow this entire thing right here, all of this will eventually contribute to the subclavian. So this whole thing will eventually become the subclavian. That. Right?
So we say that it hooks around the fourth aortic arch?
No.
Okay, so no.
That's what I'm saying. This is the transition. This is not for real.
Okay.
So it never hooks around the fourth aortic arch. It hooks around the sixth aortic arch, right? And then by the time you become a fetus, which is next, by the time you become a fetus, right? Then what it really is it's hooking around, the fetus doesn't have a fourth aortic arch. The fetus has everything formed, but it's a little bit different from the adult. So what does this become in the fetus?
The right subclavian?
Right subclavian. So you can never say that it hooks around the fourth aortic arch, because by the time that's happening, there is no fourth aortic arch there. It's become the subclavian. That's what I'm telling you, this is not real, this is just so that, right? It's not such a shock when I go from this one to the fetal one. Because the fetal one, right, what's gonna end up happening is, we're gonna have a difference right here also. Okay, so there's gonna be a difference right here also. So that's gonna be different when we do the fetus. Because this isn't, like I said, this is not for real. This is just a in between so that your mind can make the transition, right? All right, so with this,
So is the fourth arch related to brachiocephaly?
yes, so that's what we're gonna,
Becoming the brachiocephaly.
no, it's not becoming the brachiocephalic. So we're gonna talk about that with the fetal one. So you have to like just use this as a stepping stone to get to the next one, right? But I just have to show you what's disappearing, right? So with this one, that's because this is how it starts, that I drew it the same way right there, and then I put those lungs in right there. But the way that it really looks, right, a little bit more, accurate is, with the heart, you're supposed to have a pulmonary trunk coming out like this. And then you got your aorta coming out. Now, honestly, even this is not like 100% like accurate. Even this, I'm trying to keep it closer to that so that it makes more sense. But even this drawing is not 100% accurate. It's just so that you can follow things more easily. Okay? Whoops. Let me spread that out. I'm going to spread them out a little bit because what we need to do
Question about the sixth arch when it becomes the pulmonary arteries. What happens when it's attached to the dorsal aspect on the embryo? You know how it's still attached on the left side? Yeah, to the dorsal aspect. What
That.
Yeah, what happens to it when it goes through?
That's what we're talking about. Yeah, because this is like a little bit more fetal accurate. Now, it's not perfect, because again, same thing, the fetus doesn't really have this crazy length right here. This is so that it still is reminding you of this thing, where it all came from. In reality, this would already be like a little shorter. This would already be a little bit shorter. But this is the kind of transitioning. So now, this is where we're really looking at it more like fetus. Okay? So this is a huge change right here. This no longer looks the same as this. Because what's happened is this vessel, okay, the one single vessel, the ventral aorta, has been separated by a septum that grows inside of it. And the septum, as it grows, it's twisting as it grows. And so when it's twisting like this, that's how you get this. See how it twists like this? So that's how you separate out your pulmonary trunk, which is this part, from your aorta, which is this part. Yeah.
Where does the pulmonary trunk come from? Does it just come out of the heart, or does it? Oh, it's that?
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Oh, okay.
This is the one vessel, right? And what happens inside that vessel? No, what happens inside that vessel?
The septum.
What?
I did say that.
What?
The septum?
Septum is growing inside that vessel.
Okay.
And when the septum grows inside that vessel, what is it doing as it's growing? Twisting. And so what happens is, how many vessels do you see coming out of the